It seems like a necessity from the point of view as the flying public that an aeroplane should be well maintained and held to a certain standard. However, at the end of the day, an airline is a business who wants to make money. Airlines are often looking for ways to cut costs and drive down the ticket price, fill up seats to maximize profit, and maintenance is a big money drainer. An airplane sitting on the ground doesn't make any money. This is a tale of a true event in which that relationship between the airline and the aeroplane breaks down. In the year 2000, a McDonnell Douglas MD-80 suffered a monumental mechanical failure which left the crew in a hopeless situation, ultimately ending the lives of 88 people. The McDonnell Douglas MD-80 is a plane straight out of the history books. It is an upgraded version of the DC-9, an already popular plane, with a stretched fuselage and more advanced avionics, including a GPS navigation system which was brand new when it was introduced in 1980. The plane had various iterations with varying characteristics, but all came with the T-tail configuration for the vertical and horizontal stabilizers. The MD-80 is colloquially known as the Mad Dog to pilots, and was very popular with airlines and the flying public due to its sleek design and impressive performance. Over 1,000 of these planes were built, and is still very popular to this day among smaller airlines, although in modern times the MD-80 sees less and less use in Europe and North America, and is currently being phased out from major airlines in favour of more modern and fuel-efficient planes. Alaska Airlines operated 20 of these planes in 2000. Based out of several hubs in the western United States, Alaska Airlines operated several routes in and out of the popular Mexican holiday destination of Puerto Vallarta. On January 31, 2000, at around 1:40 p.m., Flight 261 takes off from Puerto Vallarta on a flight to San Francisco with a trip time of about 3 hours. The plane will then continue onto the airline's headquarters in Seattle. Today, Alaska Airlines Flight 261 is being captained by Captain Ted Thompson. He has over 17,000 hours of flight time under his belt, with 4,000 of those in the MD-80. First Officer Bill Tansky is less experienced but has extensive knowledge of the MD-80, having accumulated over 8,000 hours in the plane. It's a calm day over the west coast as the plane climbs up to its assigned cruise altitude of 31,000 feet. Just before 3:50 p.m., the pilots contacted the Alaska Airlines dispatch and maintenance in regards to a jammed stabilizer. There is discussion on whether to divert the plane to Los Angeles or to continue to San Francisco as planned. Ultimately, the crew chose to divert. The jamming of the horizontal stabilizer meant that the crew or autopilot could not operate the trimming system, which is used constantly throughout the flight, especially by the autopilot, to make slight adjustments and maintain steady flight. According to the NTSB, the cockpit voice recordings reveal that dispatch showed encouragement to continue the planned route to San Francisco. The crew began troubleshooting the trim system by using the MD-80's primary and alternate trim motors. Both appear to be jammed. The MD-80 and many other T-tail configuration aeroplanes have a rather unique trim system which differs from the traditional aeroplane. The stabilizer is connected to a gearbox which is fed a so-called jack screw at the top end, which is operated by a motor which moves the horizontal stabilizer up and down. At the bottom end of the assembly is an acme nut which helps to hold the whole system in place. The jack screw is threaded through this nut. On top of that, at both ends of the jack screw are stoppers which will stop the jack screw from threading too far through the acme nut. Extensive use of the trim over time will wear down the threads on the jack screw. To help minimize the effects of this, proper lubrication is required to help the screw move more easily. McDonnell Douglas recommend that the wear on the jack screw to not exceed a 1,000th of an inch for every 1,000 flight hours. On top of that, there should also be periodic inspections of the entire stabilizer trim assembly. In the case of Flight 261, there was a substantial lack of jack screw lubrication, and the screw threads have been worn down by up to 90% in some areas. In other words, Alaska Airlines did not follow proper maintenance guidelines. All of this meant when the stabilizer is jammed, it was jammed in a position of 0.4 degrees A&D, airplane nose down, which was forcing the aircraft down. The crew had to fight to keep this from happening and keep the plane level with the little control that they had. At around 9 minutes past 4, Captain Thompson disengaged the autopilot. In this moment, a lot happened all at once. Let's break it down a bit. When the autopilot was disconnected, the trim switched back to the primary trim motor, which applied just enough force to free the jam stabilizer. However, in doing so, because the jack screw was not correctly lubricated, the threading on the screw was stripped away from its surface, allowing it to freely pass the entire way through the acme nut until it hit the stopper at the bottom end, preventing it from going any further. In other words, the trim went from a relatively neutral position to an extreme full nose down position very quickly. This forces the plane into a vertical dive, and in the span of 80 seconds the crew lost over 8,000 feet. This meant that the plane on average was descending at a rate of around 6,500 feet per minute, over 100 feet every second, which is way more than a plane ever should descend. At around 23,000 feet the plane recovered from this first dive, with the stabilizer trim still set in the full nose down position. At this point the crew began to configure the plane for landing as soon as possible into LAX. Meanwhile, in the tail of the plane, the only thing holding the entire jack screw assembly in place is the stopper at the bottom end of the jack screw. It is under some serious force being pulled against the acme nut. This tiny component was not designed to withstand such force. The plane was left hanging by a thread for about 8 minutes until the stopper eventually failed. The entire stabilizer assembly lifted out of its regular position and came in contact with the fairing brackets at the top of the tail. Again, the fairing brackets are not meant to withstand such force as the jack screw assembly begins to push up on it. The crew actually heard the sound of the system hitting the fairing brackets as a loud thud. A few seconds later, the fairing brackets broke away from the plane, and the stabilizer assembly went with it, deploying itself in a position it was never meant to be in such an extreme position that the plane plunges into another dive right down into the Pacific Ocean.
Problems up there right now. As far as we know right now, he doesn't have any intent to go below 17,000, but keep your eye on him, okay?
Will do, Delta X-ray.
Thanks.
Hi, 0 Delta X-ray. That plane has just started to do a big, huge plunge.
A big, huge plunge. Thank you. Skywest 5154. The MD-80 is one becoming about 2 o'clock, about 10 miles now. Another pilot reports he's really looking pretty bad. They're heading to your right. Do you see him?
Yes, sir. I concur. He is definitely in a nose-down position, descending quite rapidly.
Okay, very good. Keep your eye on him. Alaska 261, are you here with us yet, sir?
50 America 161.
Army 500904, contact center on 119.05.
1905, radio, sir. Plane's inverted, sir.
Okay, very good. It looks like he's turning over in front of you now, Skywest 5154. You still got your eyes on him, sir?
There is a sight. He definitely out of control.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, he's inverted.
Okay.
And he's just hit the water. Yes, sir. He hit the water. He's down.
Poring over the cockpit voice recording transcript reveals a very noble and determined crew who fought to the very end to try and save their plane in what was a very hopeless situation. This was a very preventable accident caused by negligence. To end this video, we must discuss a man by the name of John Liotine. Liotine was an Alaska Airlines mechanic who worked in Oakland, California. In 1998, he approached the Federal Aviation Administration in regards to concerns about maintenance at Alaska Airlines. Working with federal investigators, Liotine, using secret audio recording equipment, revealed that maintenance supervisors were signing off on work that hadn't even been completed on Alaska Airlines planes. Then in December of 1998, the FAA raided Alaska Airlines headquarters and seized their records. A year later, Liotine was put on paid leave. In 1997, he had recommended that the whole jack screw assembly on the accident plane involved in Flight 261 should be replaced. In January of 2000, he watched as his recommendation was clearly ignored. He then filed a lawsuit and quickly resigned from the airline. I will now end on the statement made by NTSB board member John Golia. This is a maintenance accident. Alaska Airlines' maintenance and inspection of its horizontal stabilizer activation system was poorly conceived and woefully executed. The failure was compounded by poor oversight. Had any of the managers, mechanics, inspectors, supervisors, or FAA overseers whose job it was to protect this mechanism done their job conscientiously, this accident cannot happen. NTSB has made several specific maintenance recommendations, some already accomplished, that will, if followed, prevent the reoccurrence of this particular accident. But maintenance, poorly done, will find a way to bite somewhere else. Hello, and thanks for watching this video to the very end. If you have enjoyed this video and the others I've made on this channel, there is something you might not be aware of, just who I am exactly, the person making these videos. You may not know this, but my background is actually in video making, and I'm also a musician here on YouTube. I run a different YouTube channel, which is more personal to me. This show is merely a side project, something different to do video-wise, and somewhere to share my knowledge about aviation. I fly light aircraft in real life, but as far as video making goes, this is a side project. If you would like to know more about me personally, I will leave a link to my main channel at the top of the description, but just bear in mind that the content is completely different and is much more informal than the work I do here, which I'm trying to maintain a high standard for in my own view. More videos will be coming in due time, and I will be making a proper video on this subject also in the future as well, but in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.